All right, so let's get started. So welcome everybody to the demo day for AI for Impact, Final Pitches, AI and Web3 Venture Studio. I'm Ramesh Raskar, professor here at MIT. And today we're going to have presentations, some opening comments, and then, networking in the end. So I'm Ramesh Raskar, I'm professor here. My co-instructors are Yost Monson, who's been running this course for about 20 years, Shahid Azim, a serial entrepreneur, and also Vivek Sharma. And the main reason to call this a venture studio course is that typically entrepreneurship classes are all about joining in with a team with a somewhat defined problem, somewhat defined solution, and helping the teams thinking through how to improve their slides, how to improve their accounting, and so on. But this course is really about the early stage, because our assumption is that an innovator may or may not be the entrepreneur. So the ideas might come somewhere else, but it's the role of the entrepreneur to aggregate in a very objective manner to see which ideas to pursue and which ideas to execute. So that's what the venture studio class is. We focus on a spot probe process where right in the beginning, we bring a lot of stakeholders and experts, and ideas are evaluated. Most ideas are rejected over 3 weeks. And then for the remaining 6 weeks, students and learners spend a lot of time figuring out how to spot the opportunities and probe the solutions. It's very different in that sense from other entrepreneurship classes. You'll see today how this has evolved. We're delighted to have some amazing judges and mentors and speakers who are venture capitalists, who are investors, who are CEOs, CXOs, and leaders who have brought a lot of impact in the community. So we're very delighted to have you, and thank you for joining us here. Let me hand it over to Shahid.
Awesome. Wonderful. So Shahid Azim, I was a co-instructor with Ramesh and Yost this semester. I think one of the things that we've tried to do over the course of the semester, and especially as we look at next year, is really empower teams to think at scale and think of impact at scale. And certainly some of the key inspiration that a lot of the teams that you'll see today can be drawn into the sustainable sort of goals, planetary scale. And as we look at next year, one of the things that we are trying to do is maybe have a little bit more focused effort around climate and health. So I know there's some folks that are considering taking this class next year. Just a little primer, and happy to share more after the sessions. So with that, I think just a quick blurb in terms of how the judges are going to be assessing the performance of the teams. It's really around 3 metrics. We look at impact, the uniqueness of the idea, and the completeness of the concept itself. So we're not really looking at a full business plan presentation right now. It's really around being able to communicate these high impact ideas in a fairly short period of time. So 3 minutes each for each team. I'll be keeping track, and we'll have a couple of minutes after the presentation for Q&A by the judges. So here's a list of the teams in order. Ramesh?
Yeah. All right. Let's get started. 3 minutes you have. And the instructions we have for our judges is that focus on impact, uniqueness, and completeness. But because this is an early stage exploration, the teams are not expected to discuss the market size or a quantitative business plan. So it's really about the idea and its viability in terms of impact, uniqueness, and completeness. With that, let me hand it over to the first team.
Testing. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Demo Day. We are Loamy. My name is Shawnee. This is Sam, Elena, Becky, and Harith. And we're delighted to be here. Loamy is the first platform marketplace that allows fertility patients to access actionable information and holistic care in real time. The patient experience in fertility care right now is absolutely horrific, and I know this because I am one. I have gone to every major fertility clinic in the Boston area, and the screenshots you see here are my actual patient portal, the best in the world, which seriously describes itself as the gold standard of care. I have no access or ownership over my healthcare data, nor any personalized insights into my healthcare results. I have absolutely no support or enablement on my fertility journey, and I have no marketplace for the ancillary goods and services that I actually need. And clinicians, like my friend Harith here, have actually no way to communicate with me and terrible patient management systems. So we're going to bring you Loamy, the first decentralized platform marketplace and intelligent patient portal for the fertility market. Patients own and control their own healthcare data and get intelligent insights into their personal healthcare results. They have full enabled virtual care for the entirety of their healthcare journey, and they have a marketplace with transparent pricing on fertility drugs, services, et cetera, as well as for the first time access to the integrative and complementary health services like nutrition and psychotherapy that they actually need and desperately want. Labs and clinics can share best practices. Providers also can better manage patient care. So why are things so bad? There are 30 million women like me in this market and only 500 fertility clinics in the United States with 1,700 doctors. So only 25% of us even get access to the services that we need. But the good thing about this much demand side pressure on supply is it's gonna force new entrants. So we're right at that exponential accelerant inflection point that it's really gonna take off. So we're gonna grow with that market. So we're going to sell for SaaS services to the fertility clinics themselves, yes, but most of the value that we're going to generate is actually in the consumer marketplace offering. At 20% market share across fertility services, drugs, and ancillary goods and services, with a standard marketplace transaction fee at 10%, at scale, we're looking at $500 million in revenue, and that doesn't even include consumer app monetization or tokenization. And we know that we'll be successful because we know our stakeholders, because we are our stakeholders. Fertility patients like myself and clinicians like Harith know the intense needs in this space right now, some of which you can see in the word graph on screen. And our team is badass. We are made up of award-winning entrepreneurs, clinicians, engineers, technologists, and we're really excited to bring you Loamy, where we're democratizing fertility control to all 30 million women by giving them ownership and control over their healthcare data, as well as personalized insights into their healthcare status. We are enabling and supporting them on the entirety of their care journey, and we're giving them, for the first time, access to a marketplace with transparent pricing for the goods and services they need. To do this, we're raising a $1.2 million seed for our first full launch, and this QR code on screen here, you can see our prototype for our D app and enter your information into an interest form. Thank you, and happy to take any questions.
Can you explain a little bit more of how you do this and also the security of the data?
Great question. So our initial go-to-market strategy is really about demand capture and supply aggregation. So demand capture, we have to validate that people really want a service like this. So we are going out to the top 5 universities that are filled with graduate degrees seeking women like myself, the core demographic market, and we're saying pay $5 to come learn about fertility. So that is Stanford, Harvard, MIT, Columbia, and UC Berkeley Haas. This is also where the fertility clinics are centered. And we think we can aggregate just on that service MVP alone, we think we can aggregate about $10,000. The demand is that high. So that's really about getting our brand out there and offering 15% off on our first transaction on our platform, so incentivizing the actual use of the product. While we're doing that, we're actually also going out to the marketplace and thinking about the supply aggregation. All the supplements and services that we want on the platform, we say, sign up with us, we'll give you the first 6 months for free, and that's incentivized because all they care about is volume. Their entire business is based on the number of customers who cross their door. And the security point, obviously we're entirely encrypted end-to-end with HIPAA compliance and high trust compliance as well.
Hi, Imran Said. You mentioned that one of the challenges was that there's 30 million women seeking fertility treatments and only 25% have access, and there aren't enough doctors. I think the number of doctors is a very small number. So how are you actually increasing the number of doctors through this? Because without it, doesn't matter what app you have, you wouldn't have access to the doctors, right?
Short answer is we don't need the doctors for the future. Technology is actually getting to the place where it doesn't take a reproductive endocrinologist. It's not that complicated of a procedure. An experienced lab technician can do it. Also, technology is actually getting to the place that is going to make this far more economical and scalable. And it's 30 million women, just to be clear. Thank you so much, everyone.
Got it.
So what challenge causes the loss of 6% of GDP? That's $8.1 trillion every single year. And the same challenge I'm describing here is also the leading cause of mortality for children under the age of 5 years old. Any takers? So the cost of this is air pollution.
Now, traditional methods for measuring air pollution often make it really difficult to trace pollution back to its source. Because of this, if we look at this, we see that 80% of firms report no data related to emissions caused by business activities. Of the 20% that do report data, there are measurement error rates as high as 40%. Currently, in our current environment, regulators and investors are placing greater pressure on industry leaders, particularly in the construction and the oil and gas industries, to monitor and mitigate pollution impacts.
So how are we addressing this challenge? Well, we're doing it through a two-phased approach. Phase one is that we have developed an approach to predict precise measurement of pollution utilizing artificial intelligence, ground pollution sensors, and global satellite imagery that we collect every single day for every location on the planet. And phase two of this approach is that we're enabling both a voluntary and a mandatory pollution economy to use this data to be able to target structured interventions to actually mitigate pollution. So we are blueLabs, and we are enabling local pollution sources and their prediction to enable global pollution economies. And here's the tool that we've built. So imagine that you're an investor who wants to manage the environmental risk of their portfolio and also adhere to local pollution regulations. You can evaluate the impact of your real estate on the pollution levels in the environment. And then you can use blueLabs' patent-pending artificial intelligence to generate simulations of air pollution given specific interventions that help you mitigate the cost of air pollution. And from this, you can select the highest impact interventions from our intervention marketplace to be able to mitigate pollution attributable to your assets.
If you can easily measure pollution and pinpoint its source at a massive scale, we think this enables a path to net zero emissions and healthier cities. We are an interdisciplinary team working with an award-winning technology recognized by organizations like NASA and OpenAI. We are currently working with the UN in 2 different countries, and we're very excited to launch into construction across 5 different cities within India next month. We would love to talk with potential partners and collaborators to further this even more. Thank you.
Hello. Excellent presentation. I would be curious to hear your thoughts around, and this study's a little stale, it was in 2015, but the conclusion's probably the same, is that 90 companies account for 2/3 of greenhouse gas emissions. So without a lot of these companies being on board, which are your typical culprits, the impact would be attenuated in this business model. So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts around that and how that might affect you go to market.
So it's also, so I agree with you. There is 80%, 20% of the companies doing 80% of the damage. There is also, impact is different because we have pollution, population centers across the world. So one of our starting markets is India, and our company is founded in India. So we're looking at addressing the impact on human health in India, 35% of the global population. We're also starting a partnership with the Arab Potash Company. They're the largest, well, 8th largest potash company in the Middle East. And we are actually seeing, a lot of these oil and gas and large industrial polluters come on board because they also want access to ESG financing, and they understand that it's a problem for their worker productivity as well. So they're increasingly being evaluated by this.
Thank you.
So real quick, walk us through your revenue journey. So your very first dollar, and then when you hit 10 million of revenue, who's paying you? And then when you hit 100 million of revenue, who's paying you?
So very first dollar has come from UNICEF. So we've started working with them to scale to 3 different countries across the world. We're looking at working in India, Mongolia, both the most polluted countries in the world. So they're actually funding us to develop artificial intelligence to help them direct some of their air pollution programs. It's also important for us to stick with the UNICEF because we want to actually make a systems level change. So UNICEF, ESG was kind of created by the UN, and they're able to really drive some of these market changing initiatives and standards. So yeah, first dollars are there, $10 million. Well, we're working with the largest companies in the world. So we say the oil and gas companies we want to have the partnerships with, and the large kind of manufacturing centers of the world. So we've started working in the Middle East, and we working on doing a ecosystems tour in the next couple months around there to really evaluate the largest oil and gas polluters in the region. So we're going to hit our 10 million mark from oil and gas and manufacturing companies out there.
Hello everyone, we're Team iSight. And my name is Alan. We have Alan here and we have Darren, and unfortunately one of our team member, AJ, couldn't make it today. But the problem that we're trying to solve is that there's insufficient technology for visually impaired people to operate in today's environment. Currently they rely a lot on family and friends. Today's infrastructure isn't really developed for their needs, and technological solutions cost upwards of $3,000, so it's pretty unaffordable for them.
Yeah, so this is our solution. We are going to connect the visually impaired people with the volunteer people through our application and service. So the first thing is the visually impaired people can get some help in not only outdoor, but also specifically indoor environments, and the hardness quality are tokenized. Next slide. So this is our application. For example, visually impaired people can log in using not only their text, but also the voice. And they can check, for example, family or nearby assistants. And then they can receive some help, not only this kinds of visual assistant, video assistant, but also screen sharing. And this will be tokenized depending on the satisfaction.
Next slide, please. Next one, yeah. So in terms of market size, we're basically, if you think about like the total population of low vision and visually challenged, it's about 30 million. From that, we believe we can capture 1 million, which is approximately 3% share. Next slide, please. And in terms of the business model, or how will we make money, there are 2 main avenues. The first one is the B2C, and then the second one is B2B2C. The B2C part is simply having a subscription model, and it can be as well with a wearable, and the wearable is just a head mount to put the phone on to make it like easier. But to start off with without the wearables, you basically have 1 million patients, which is approximately 5 to 3% conversion, and it's $10 per month. Eventually, you'll have around 6 million, and then afterwards, if you include the headset, it will be around 7 million. And then the other avenue, which is the B2B2C, is basically through third parties. So when we have this access to data inside, for example, the bedroom or the kitchen or so on, we can get this data, and eventually, like big tech or so on, can potentially like get this data and grab this data, obviously with like the utmost privacy. So just in general, like the algorithm behind it. And then we can do partnerships with NGOs as well. Next slide, please. In terms of competitive analysis, we do have some competitors, but we believe we have some unique features, including the Web3 integration and the tokenization aspect, as well as the AI aspect in terms of object level detection and pedestrian sign identification and so on. Next slide, please. And finally, in terms of next steps and roadmap, we've done so far the discovery and the PMR. What we're waiting for is now the MVP and software engineering, then the demo version of the MVP, which is around February. Afterwards, we'll have the V1 hopefully around April or May. And then finally, we'll refine the version by including the AI integration June and furthermore. Thank you. Happy to address any questions.
So similar question to last time. So if I look at your revenue slide, I really understand everything in there is very clearly explained. Which is the starting point? Where's your first revenue come from, and what's the order that you go through that slide?
Great question. So first of all, we'll start off with the kind of like the subscription. At the very, very first, we're going to make it free just to test out, obviously, with some of the patients. But eventually, it will be like through subscription. That's the first step. And then eventually, when we feed in our model and have a better algorithm, we'll be able to sell this to the third party and go for the B2B2C.
I get cold called. I wasn't quite sure I understood the use case. I'm a visually impaired person. I somehow navigate on my phone to get this app running. So I can see well enough to navigate the phone, but not well enough to read the label on the bread. That didn't add up in my brain.
Would you like me to address it?
We had interviewed with visually impaired people, and they are getting some help in, for example, read big bold text in application, and they even can hear about that kinds of things in voiceover. But for example, expire date or some very specific information in analogous settings, they cannot hearing, and they can reading very specific, very small text. So in that case, they needed someone else help or technological help.
I can add to this also, like typically phones have like the accessibility features. So they can just like have voiceover, which is essentially what Dayun mentioned. And afterwards in the app, we'll have like buttons that are like NLP and text-to-speech and so on. So that'll be easier for them as well to navigate the app.
Good presentation, and I wear glasses. I believe that everyone will have a similar problem in some way. By the way, I noticed that you put yourself as a competitor with some of the most developed wearable devices. There is a suggestion from me. Look, those ones use AI technology and whatever to help those people as wearable devices, but the technology has their limited. Yeah. So I like your idea to tokenize the man-to-man way to help this to deal with this problem. Why do you guys do cooperate or partnership with those wearable devices as the final solution if AI or some technology can't fix that problem? For example, if someone uses a device on head, but if there are some difficulties, can't find the answer, and then they have a way to connect with your platform, and then you can partnership with those. That's not a competitor with you, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, sure. I agree. I 100% agree. We can definitely partner with them. It's a great point. But we didn't want to have any like roadblock or a wall between like having something that is very expensive. So for example, we don't want to have like an actual wearable that is like super expensive, which costs like 5K or so. We don't want to have that. And that's why eventually I fully agree. Like if they have everything, potentially we can integrate with them. But for now, we didn't want to include like this roadblock in front of us.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yasin Fall, and I'm excited to talk to you about the future of data collection as we know it. Okay, so this summer I was in Kabale, Uganda, and I was working with some amazing researchers there in order to bring the work to the world. It required that when I came back to the US, I would be able to continue working on this project, but they solely did not have the human capacity in order to continue. And I wondered, why is it that in 2022, we do not have a digital way of collecting data? In my research of some of the biggest academic and business research companies, they are still doing data collection in the same way. It is old, it is painfully slow, and they have not tapped into the power of TikTok. And I'm saying TikTok because where my family is from, in Kébémer, Senegal, they're living in a rural area, but they still send me TikToks every week. Why haven't we tapped into the power of audio and visual technologies in order to accelerate this process altogether? This is why I want you guys to invest in Hive. Hive is the new data collection platform that will use the power of AI and Web3 technology in order to accelerate the data collection process. We use AI in order to translate between cultural and language barriers, and then Web3 in order to authenticate users, as well as allow for them to have the ability to create smart contracts so that they can be compensated. Yeah, so I was studying her a little bit because those were not the updated slides, but we can keep going. What we are tapping into is an $81 billion market that is academia. We're focusing on people who are doing human subjects research, and then we'll further expand to tap into the overall greater business market. And what our edge is that we understand the power of audio-visual technology in order to increase in accessibility, first and foremost, to connect with the world, followed by our ability to use the latest technology in order to make this process efficient and put money with those who are most who are providing their narratives. We believe in the power of data collection, and we know that data is power, and our power is our narrative. So we want people to join this hive in order to participate to this democratized way of collecting data. We have our first pilot in January and are looking for $20,000 in order to kickstart it off. We have our partner secured with the Department of Primary Care at Harvard Medical School, and we want to be able to create a robust platform that will allow us to accelerate the way that data collection is done for all institutions, not only in academia, but in the big market that is business as well. This is not working anymore. I'll stop there for questions.
Awesome.
This is not working anymore.
I mean, good work in getting through the AV stuff. That's not easy, very frustrating. I'm sure you worked hard. Can you just describe your initial project and what they're hoping to accomplish?
Yes, so we have partnered with Harvard Medical School Department of Primary Care. Their main goal is they know that there are a lot of people in the Boston community who aren't attached to primary care. They want to start with their partners and get interview data of what are their barriers to accessing primary health care and what they can do in order to better that. So what we will not be doing is just going door to door and interviewing people or just calling people who are a part of their database, but we want to use the people in the database to connect with them in ways that are already accessible to them. This can look like SMS and WhatsApp, and sending them audio messages where they can respond in a way that's most comfortable to them, initially to collect data and show that with AI and new technology, we can really just translate across those cultural barriers, language barriers that people might have. And this is going to be especially helpful for people who speak foreign languages that aren't necessarily written. It will allow us to have a voice-to-voice way of translating information in ways that people have not utilized yet in research. Yes, thank you. Ledger research, yes, that is not.
Yeah, if you didn't hear that, Ledger Research is the road to use companies. It's at Hive up there, but you want to use the Ledger Research row. Yeah, to echo what Jamie said, you look like you were going to be nervous over there. You came over here, you look so comfortable on stage, and then when the slides aren't, you just powered through it so beautifully. It was just really, really impressive. I don't have a question. I was just filling time waiting for the next question. But
Thank you.
Really impressive.
I appreciate it.
So you talked about exploiting the fact that TikTok was already there, but then you introduced sort of a new app. So can you expand a little bit then? So how are you taking advantage of sort of the fact that TikTok is potentially a platform that's already used versus introducing this new concept? Would it be introduced by a data collector, or are you anticipating something like a TikTok that would already be in the hands of the consumer and they would need to somehow find you and engage with the product?
Yes, so we are trying to empower the data collection process with the power of audio-video technology that TikTok has shown that we are able to connect with more people in ways that are more accessible to them across the world if we focus on audio-visual technology as opposed to written forms of data collection and information. So what we want to do is use, for example, platforms like WhatsApp, where people are able to record themselves doing videos or record an audio message. And a researcher might come and say, what does it look like to be a Black woman living in Senegal, in rural Senegal? And you can literally show me live footage of that, and we can use that to create data around what your experience and what your narrative is, as opposed to making someone who may be illiterate write out an essay on what that might be like. Yes.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, my name is Steve Colvin. Dan Sosa is here on Zoom, and we are creating Mycelium, which will be the central data bank of biology and artificial intelligence. It costs $1 to $3 billion to bring a drug to market. 90% of those drugs will fail, which can be devastating for patients. That's why we're seeing an explosion of artificial intelligence seeking to improve the drug success rate. But here's the dirty little secret they don't tell you in any of these articles. Their AI models don't actually have the data that they need. All these AI models are missing that fundamental data that explains how biology works. And that's because that data is buried in more than 35 million research articles. There's nearly 2 million articles published each year. And if you were to spend just 5 minutes per paper trying to collect that data and annotate it, it would take centuries. But that is exactly what we are going to do. I'm going to get to how in a second, but first I want to explain our core product. Mycelium is the largest, most complete data bank of biology, and we will use that data to help other companies build and strengthen their AI models. It can be for drug discovery, bioengineering, gene therapy, whatever it is they need. And what's special about Mycelium is that it can do this without actually sharing the data. We can use a process called federated learning, which allows Mycelium to train their models while maintaining ownership of our data at all times. One second. Anyways, this is critical because we are not an AI company, we are a data company. But here's the rub. If you were to just try and mine this data, the results are very noisy. This is where other companies give up, because you need tons of manual work by trained scientists to fix that noise in this data. You need CAPTCHA for biology. And so we have this public good. We have a public need, and we're missing incentivization. This is where we can use the blockchain to reward scientists who contribute to the Mycelium network. And then biotech companies need to buy those tokens from our scientists in order to use our data. So we are competing on data. Yeah, I'm hitting it in front, but. So data is where we are competing. That is our key differentiator. And it's only through crowdsourcing this task on the blockchain that we can get all the data that we need. We can get the person hours and build something that is otherwise prohibitively expensive and time-consuming for any incumbent in the space right now. I recently defended my thesis in biology here at MIT with a brief hiatus to start my first business, and Dan Sosa is graduating in March from Stanford, where he is an expert in knowledge graphs and drug repurposing. And we will be pursuing this beyond the end of class because we think the opportunity and timing is just too perfect for Mycelium today. We have AI companies that are in desperate need of data. we can deliver that data quite cheaply through blockchain, and we can use federated learning to stay on top of that data and not give it away. So thank you for your time, and please, come to chat with me at the poster in the quiet corner of the room if you have any questions after.
Hello. Awesome presentation. I would be curious to hear your thoughts around the notion that a lot of these large language models are having these amazing emergent properties now when they expand from 1 to 10 to 100 billion parameters. My general conclusion would be then that the unique sauce here of being able to annotate and interpret the data, the playing field will be getting leveled over time. So I'm curious, in that context, how you think about differentiating yourself.
You're absolutely right. So beyond data, and if you come to the poster and my computer, I'll show you a little bit more as well. We're also looking at just, we have this community. What other resources do they need? And can we build tools, for instance, that people can maintain and easily access? Because right now, the tooling for biology is terrible. You need to download a bunch of software you've never heard of before for each tool, work through the command line. None of that's really user-friendly. So we want to be able to turn everyone in an organization into a data scientist with minimal effort. So that's ultimately where we end up moving beyond data.
Great answer.
Thank you.
What's the story behind the name, and how might Big Pharma be threatened by this?
So I will be changing this name because Mycelium's already a token, but I do sometimes forage for mushrooms, and Mycelium is kind of that root system to mushrooms that ultimately, bring up a fruiting body. And sorry, what was the second half of your question?
How's Big Pharma threatened by this?
I don't think Big Pharma should be threatened by it. I think Big Pharma should consider us a partner in the long term. I mean, that's ultimately what I want to do. They're constantly trying to cut costs and outsource work, and that's where we come in. We're effectively outsourcing that work for them. Mechanical Turk, somewhat similar in that space.
So I happen to know that Big Pharma has just a huge amount of cash on hand looking to deploy. Do you have an investment plan that taps into that in any way? Or how do you plan to finance the company? What's the roadmap there?
I think we're still figuring that part out, if I'm honest. There are obviously, government grants that we can pursue, but I think to move fast, it's best to, look for those partnerships early on and see what we can build. And so we're looking at kind of, when we're building this system, there are a lot of data management aspects to it that we can also help with these large companies that need better data management tools. I spoke to a friend at Novartis, and they're completely retooling their data management system every 3 years because what they're getting is terrible, where they need to work with other contractors just to access the data that's in their own system. So we're still working on that question, though.
I think time. Thank you.
Sorry.
Hello, my name's Al. I'm a clinical data scientist. All the problems I care about in healthcare are being bottlenecked by the lack of data. Value-based care, research, clinical decision-making. The great news is that there's billions of medical records that can be used for data. The problem is they're trapped. And why are they trapped? Why is this data trapped in these medical records? One is that they're siloed in the thousands of data vaults of these medical providers. Two, the data is unstructured and filled with private patient information. Three, there's not a culture within medicine now that sees this data as something valuable and something shareable. So what do medical providers care about? Medical providers care about billing. And medical billing is one of the most inefficient processes in healthcare, costing 50% of medical revenue, an incredible time sink from the providers, requiring an army of 200,000 medical billing professionals. And costing the medical industry hundreds of billions of dollars in inaccurate billing. What's our solution? Metacipher. Human-in-the-loop AI to automate medical billing and combine it with data extraction. So why is it natural to combine these two tasks, medical billing and clinical data extraction? Because both of them require high accuracy, and therefore both of them require human auditors. So who should these human auditors be? Well, we already have this army of 200,000 medical coders who are trained to read medical records. So why not take these medical coders and make them AI auditors to audit this automated AI that optimizes for billing and extracts medical, structures medical records and extracts valuable information. So this is our demo. So we have a working demo, so what do? We initially de-identify the data. We de-identify the data, the human auditor reviews the de-identified data, and our automated billing platform suggests medical codes for billing. Our AI is explainable. The human auditor can review the text to see if the codes are accurate, and then the human feedback improves our model. So what's next? So we have this data. We've structured this data. We've pulled it out of this medical records. So next, we want to share the data, either with an analytics or data market platform, including federated learning. So what makes us different? So there are many companies in this space that are in either mining unstructured data or trying to automate clinical medical records. We are the only company that's combining both to provide immediate value to the providers to incentivize access to the medical records, as well as unstructuring and sharing this data.
Time.
What's the plan once you have the data structured to leverage that, and what kind of permission do you need from the patients, and how's revenue model and et cetera? I'm not sure I understood.
So once the data is de-identified, it's no longer medical records and now data and can be shareable. Initially, we're going to use this data to optimize billing, giving immediate value to the providers. Initially for the billing, and then eventually creating a marketplace for this unstructured data, for this structured data. Through federated learning or selling analytics.
So you're one of the few teams that's actually gotten through prototype during a semester, which is very impressive. So tell us how you built it so quickly, what's it built out of, and what's that whole landscape going to look like? What can you build easily, what's very hard to build?
So we have a state-of-the-art model that's leading in accuracy for medical coding. It uses LSTM using medical dictionaries that use coding synonyms to apply an attention filter to the text in order to focus the model on the relevant text, the relevant text within the model. So what's the barrier? The barrier is data. To developing a good model, and as we have more customers, we have more data. As we have more users, the human feedback improves the model, and the barrier is the architecture. So we actually use the attention filters for the explainability. So we extract the attention vectors and apply them to the text to show the human what is the AI paying attention to. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Who donated last year? Can I have a raise of hands? Who knows where the money went? Who's 100% certain? 60% at least. See? That's the problem. We don't know. And that's not only you or you. That's also about 2.3 trillion donors who donated last year. This problem of accountability, verifying it, and trust can be solved.
Introducing TrustChain, a human-powered verification system for social impact delivery that leverages the transparency of the blockchain AI analytics, and a network of verifiers to deliver advanced, real-time collection to track impact on the ground at a lower cost. We build trust with a rating system that guarantees more impact on the dollar while creating valuable jobs for millions of verifiers around the world. I'm from Haiti. This is personal to me. We tested on a $27 million COVID response project with the Ministry of Health and found unobserved data like waste of vaccines, alternative use of oxygen that save lives but also shows misuse of project funds, and increase the workers' motivations in times of crisis. TrustChain allows for accurate data on these gaps for less than the millions in admin fees while hearing directly from the people.
Okay, so how does this work exactly? First, NGOs go onto the platform, they upload their project with the goals, the location, the cost, and also the impact metrics. And then verifiers go on and verify these goals. They take documents and upload documents and photos, and then the verifier can have the profile that shows how many projects they've verified to increase credibility. After that, foundations can also go on and they can see the project platform and receive project reports. So for the business model, how do we incentivize verifiers to be a part of the system? It's really a Uberization of jobs where you just need your phone to make money. And also it provides economic empowerment for communities. And for our revenue model, we really want to diversify this and have different subscriptions and really have a verification review.
Thank you. So we have looked at the competition. Nobody does exactly what we're trying to do. We are the only one which does it all. Measure the impact and verify it. Nobody is doing this. First, our plan is to come up with an MVP features working in partnership with foundation and NGOs. And then we want to have finalize our verified network on the ground at a particular location. After this, we will have the pilot ready and we will launch the pilot. After successful launch of the pilot with one particular project, we will add additional projects in the same location. Once the location is ready and live and successful, then we will add additional countries, one after another, success after another success.
So take a moment and imagine with me that this kid in India is able to report his needs for something. And this NGO is verified. It picks it right away, and it gets the money right away on the time. Or this lady in Africa who needs a heart surgery reports her need, and she gets the money right on time, but she gets the money. It's verified. All this can happen through TrustChain. We are a team of experts of 15 years of experience working on the ground with national and international organizations, national policies, and international policies as well. We know how it works, and we are seeking partners to join us to have a massive pilot and roll out this on scale. Please scan our QR code and join us. Thank you very much.
So we're looking at a B2B approach. The first one is I work for the IDB. They funded this project. And I know the people at the Ministry of Health. So we reached out, and then we kind of sent people and had conversation with people who benefited. So the next step for us is to actually we'll go with that B2B approach. That's why we think we're in the right place. Anyone here who's connected to a big foundation who wants to conduct another pilot, we're happy to put this prototype out there to test and see what kind of insight that are in your existing report that TrustChain can bring to you. And that's valuable for your planning and the future of impact in the world.
Awesome, thank you. We're going to take a 2-minute stretch break, just as people can stand up, take a break, and then we'll take on the next team. Thank you.
Yeah. I know. The QR code is brilliant, though.
everybody a way to say, I want to hear more. And
Okay, here's my question. How does verification work, and why is that not another opportunity for fraud?
So the idea.
It's got to be the scummiest crime in the world. I did philanthropy verification fraud.
I think honestly. I think it's because we're taking it at scale. So if we have a lot of people saying the same thing, and on the blockchain everything is public, so it's actually easy for you to go and correct. It's like Wikipedia, right? Everyone is kind of reporting about like how do you could fraud, but is that the incentive?
Coming. Yeah, appreciate this. Yeah. Hopefully this is fun.
A million people being paid to verify things.
But there's not a million people going to verify one thing. Like, there's 3 people going to verify this one thing. Yeah, really, that's stuff, man.
Yeah.
So what is the verification process? I thought it was taking pictures.
So basically the NGO
Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. And then kind of like push
I wanted to say hi now in case I don't catch you. I know you're busy.
Did you see this school? It's not. Anyone with the app can just go up there and get a profile.
All right.
Kind of document what they see, what they heard, how they're seeing the impact, and then it's done by anyone who's randomly can go on the platform. And some people actually advance. So
all right, SleePro coming up next.
And then we go up and we go and we create the quality out of numbers and out of the.
If you can introduce yourself, just take each of you. Just
you could
right now here. All right, hello everybody. I came in a little bit late. Just wanted to say hello. My name is John Harthorn. I am currently the founder managing director of a venture fund called Two Lanterns Venture Partners. It's a seed fund based in Boston, software-only startups in the US and Israel. You can reach me at john@2l.vc if you want to talk to me. Prior to that, I was the founder and longtime CEO of Mass Challenge. Then I was at Bain & Company, and I'm a 2007 Sloan MBA. Feel free to stop by and chat. I look forward to meeting you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's go ahead.
Sorry. Okay. Hi. Circadian disruption is highly prevalent, but often underdiagnosed and untreated in our always-on society. There's 48 million people facing burnout as routine issues, and the productivity loss in the workplace costs more than $400 billion in the US every year. Clinical method to assess circadian health is invasive, costly, and unpleasant, requires a serial sampling of blood or saliva, and requires participants to stay in a sleep lab overnight. Current consumer solutions is lacking clinical validity and effective interventions. We are a team from MIT and Harvard Medical School working with top sleep scientists and have strong expertise in digital healthcare and precision medicine. We're here to bridge this gap. So we bring you SleePro, a voice-based circadian diagnostic and performance management platform with our first ever clinically validated voice biomarker for assessing sleep, sleepiness, fatigue, and circadian phase. And we assist users with optimizing their circadian rhythm based on their personalized conditions. We're initially targeting at a $5 billion market for working professionals and college students who value the peak performance and sleep quality. Our proprietary voice biomarker and voice processing algorithm analyze users' circadian phase based on their recorded speech. And we're currently undergoing clinical trials in Brigham the Women's Hospital. We found robust vocal parameters that can be generalized across populations. Based on our voice-based circadian assessment, we propose best fit schedules, suggest optimal sleep wake time, peak performance windows, and prevent users from drowsy driving. Compared to our competitors, we're the only solutions that is clinically validated and can provide instantaneous feedback on 24-hour circadian rhythm. And we also provide personalized effective interventions. We understand that behavior change is essential, the centerpiece for any successful digital health solutions. So we developed this unique health deposit health index model to incentivize user for behavior change. Once users subscribe our mobile app, their subscription fee becomes health deposit, and they can claim back their subscription fee by consistent voice recording, the quantifiable behavior change, as well as the actual outcome improvement based on our voice assessment on circadian health. And there's myriad of high-impact application scenarios for voice to be a standardized consumer solution to assess circadian health. We're starting off with adult population, but also targeting in a longer clinical roadmap. We also talk about targeting at infants and also minimal and nonverbal populations, such as people suffering from autism spectrum disorder. And we also support organizations with shift work optimization, employee wellness, and drowsy driving prevention. In the long term, we also plan to provide an API for third-party intervention providers, integrating with smart speakers, and scale up the impact.
Time.
Thank you.
Question?
So it's very rare to for you to talk about like circadian health app today, because most of these products fall into sleep products. And sleep, there's a mirror of like sleep intervention or mobile apps which focus only on 8-hour nighttime sleep. The modality they take usually is from either like the smartphone sensors, or combined with sort of wearable data. But these cannot interpret the 24-hour circadian health. So that's one differentiate us from like other sleep interventions. The other part for current sleep apps focusing on circadian health, they only rely on rigid the user input schedules or like phone activities, like monitoring when you use the app or not, and then use that to infer your circadian health. But we are taking a biosignal to assess these and can provide instantaneous feedback. So that's a very important difference from other competitors.
Yeah, let me drill down on that for just 1 second. So if I look at the last 2 columns, one of your competitors is all green except for 1 red check mark.
Yeah.
So are you going to crush them on instantaneous diagnosis? And why is that such a big deal?
Yeah. So the time shifter app is using user input. So everything based on user's input. Like you put your own personal schedule constraints, and then they interpret based on circadian signs from the generated from the clinical trials. But they cannot do instantaneous feedback. It's a long term, so they can only tell you like in this long-term perspective what you can do. But for us, because we take voice as an instantaneous input, and we can tell immediately like which phase you are at during the day. And also we provide more precise and personalized interventions based on that.
Very similarly, that last comment that you made is where it's confusing to me. I understand that voice could be a biomarker of where you are in circadian rhythm. It might indicate, that you have a problem, but it's not clear to me that it can actually indicate solutions versus some of the other inputs. There's diet, stress, and part of diet is alcohol consumption, and many other things that have shown to have impact on circadian rhythms and quality of sleep. So it seems like there's a big gap between speech and then actual therapeutic intervention. Can you address, how have you thought about that? And maybe specifically with Time Shifter, it's, if they're getting that input directly from the user, how do you sort of proxy for other factors?
Yeah, sure. So all these interventions, either behavioral, pharmaceutical, or even like light therapy, which is like proved to be very effective, there's a lack of understanding right now for like personalized circadian rhythm. They're more taking on like the the schedule or kind of objective measurement of environmental factors, but not based on the circadian rhythm. And this is the only, right now there's no solutions out there in the market that can assess personal circadian rhythm. Yeah. So the yeah. Mm-hmm.
MyFarmNet. Precision agriculture is something which is expected to feed the world for tomorrow, amongst many other things. But it is important to know that precision agriculture, especially in the North American market, has been stagnating, whereas in the developing countries, it is at a very nascent stage. And MyFarmNet plans to be the engine for scaling and solving this problem. We spoke to scores of people, farmers, stakeholders, and experts in the industry, and we learned that two key challenges that are attenuating the growth of this particular sector is lack of data interoperability between siloed data sets sitting within the individual farmers, and secondly, data management and analytics capabilities. And so we present MyFarmNet, wherein we try to engage the users in a gamified context, incentivize them to share the existing data, create new data sets, and then use Web3 tokens to further keep them engaged, which then is then used by the agricultural service providers, insurance, and the other providers to actually create insights and monetize the entire ecosystem. The way this business model operates is we start by building communities, preferably brownfield communities of farmers, cooperatives, and then get them onto engage and then share the data about sub-parcel level activities that they're doing on the farm. So it's kind of a social network for farmers sharing practices and engaging, which then is used to layer on top of third-party data sets. And that third-party data sets, together with the decisions on multiple sets, multiple farming decisions that the farmers are taking, becomes insights for the agricultural insurance providers, and who then monetize the ecosystem, add to the treasury of the DAO, which then becomes the fundamental for MyFarmCoin, flowing back value back to the farmers. So to the farmer, it is essentially an app to engage, interact, create data, and also see the value created using MyFarmCoin, which they mint in the process. And then to the stakeholders, it is essentially an insights dashboard. So what we are doing is unlocking a twin-sided network effect where more data means more benefits, better insights adding to more institutional customers, greater monetization, leading to more value for MyFarmCoin and eventually more farmers. And this cold start problem of network will be solved by issuing the most influential farmers a set of MyFarmCoins in the beginning. Competitively, if you look at the agri-services industry and Web2 and Web3, this is where the industry stands, and we are looking at this empty box at the intersection of Web3 and data services. The plan is to start with North America, and especially these 4 crops, which have already 50% of single precision technology implemented, which means there is data but not being utilized, and then in the phase 2 expand into the other emerging markets. So what we are looking at is tapping existing farmer cooperatives. We have in advanced stages of partnership with the Nebraska cooperative, farming cooperative. So that is what we will tap into. Eventually unlock the insights. So agri-insurance is the sector we are looking at first because they need sub-farm level, sub-parcel level insights on what crops are being grown at what stage. And then that is what will be used for. So I'll just introduce quickly. I'm Anand. I have 10+ years of experience in agriculture policymaking entrepreneurship. Have interviewed more than 10,000 farmers in my previous decade of experience. And with Patrick, who is also a farmer himself and the head of digital innovation and sustainability at Syngenta, we are building on this product at the Harvard Kennedy School.
Anand, On a question, it sounds like fundamentally it's a data collection model where you build in very great data analytics and insights on the back end. But what happens, two questions. One is the conflict. The incentive, let's start with the first one, the incentive of the farmer, that MyCoin concept. Is that really a valuable enough currency because it's dependent on that collection? But the second piece of that is there a concern that the farmers will find, because the organizations you had on the left side of the screen potentially could create products that would penalize the farmer, for instance, more expensive products because they have different insights, or some sort of tax in other ways, and create relationships like Monsanto had with farmers in the US. How do you address all those concerns?
Which is where precisely why we have started with having Syngenta in some sense on board, but especially on your first question, actually what we're trying to do with the first cooperative is not really like the coin issuance, but first get the solution as like a Web2 platform with a social network interacting mechanism on board, and then see the incentives, because we first want to make sure that the farmers are engaged in a micro community. And that's our first target. Once we have done that, we need to see if they are engaged. If not, that is where we will use the MyFarm coin. So that's the stage that we are. So we are kind of plain vanilla solution building stage with Nebraska at this point, but some elements of Web3 is something we will be experimenting with going forward. Does that answer the question? Yeah, all right, thanks. Thank you. Look forward to your questions and interactions going forward. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chelsea. I'm along with Alban. We're building Refi DAO and Impact to Earn Venture Studio. Can you imagine to live in a world where with millions of refugees and over 30% of our planet unlivable? This is our future if we fail to tackle the climate crisis. However, our current financial system is not designed to tackle the systematic issue. Although there's a many investment flowing into this area, there's still not enough. There's a huge gap to make the real changes. That's where Refi comes in. Refi means regenerative finance. It's a way to leverage Web3 and crypto to incentivize community to tackle the systematic issue together. Refi is an over $1 trillion company opportunity with over 100 times demand growth for the carbon market by 2050. However, currently the Refi ecosystem is facing four main challenges: incentive, coordination, capital flow, and real-world impact.
And that's why our thesis is to build an ecosystem where all members are incentivized and aligned to grow and scale each other's solutions together. To do this, we are building an Impact to Earn Venture Studio based on a community-powered protocol that will align incentives, coordinate capital, remove barriers, and reward impact so that we can surround our founders with world-class talent and support. First, to align incentives and coordinate capital, we plan on building a Refi token that's based on the governance tokens of the startups that we will help incubate, that will then be used to attract financial capital, as well as a whole suite of different resources, contributors, partners, infrastructure providers, and more. To remove barriers, we envision an ecosystem where anyone can join this community and make an impact in any way they can and be rewarded for both their on-chain and off-chain contributions to the Venture Studio. Meet Brianna Welsh. She is a CEO and founder of Renium, a blockchain marketplace that is digitizing and tokenizing renewable energy credits to proliferate the number of renewable energy projects. We spoke with her in length to understand her pain points around marketing needs, around shared backend support, industry expertise that her and her small team just don't have right now. And with Refi DAO, we plan on building this ecosystem with the unique relationships we've built across these suite of resources, as well as successful founders who have done it before to help her scale and achieve her vision for a Refi future along with us.
So for the competitive landscape, we found that although there's a huge market for the DAOs, there's no dominant player in the climate and the social impact sector, which gives Refi DAO a huge opportunity to create value. So far, ReFiDAO has already over 200 founders join the community, over 3,000 people in the community, and over 30,000 downloads for our podcast. By creating this flywheel of connecting the capital, action, content, and community, we believe we could create a real-world impact. With our team made up with the relevant background, we think we are the right team to tackle this issue. So let's build the future together. We're happy to chat more and take any questions.
So I don't know if you're familiar with Alumni Ventures, but a very good friend of mine actually works over there. They produce 10,000 K1s for all of their little investors. It's a logistical nightmare. So if you use a token to take in capital and you have an ecosystem of world-changing companies on the other side, that's brilliant. What's the legal structure? Is that a security? What's the legal structure? Because obviously it's going to be much better if it's legal.
Yeah, definitely. That is arguably, in terms of next steps, our biggest challenge. And we have this as we started developing this high-level business model, understanding that the connection between legal structures and crypto is still a very nascent space, and certainly something we have to figure out. But we're more focused on building the ecosystem now, and definitely top priority.
All right, this slide is actually helpful for the question I had, but I might have missed this, but how are you measuring objectively impact? Because that can be a subjective thing and it's business model dependent, and the arrows I see here are mostly money flowing, right? So I might have missed it, but that wasn't clear to me.
No, definitely. I think in terms of the protocol that we want to build, we want to be able to measure impact, which could be financial contributions. So as a quick example, if as a member you're not a resource provider, you could pay to retire, you could work with like Renium to purchase renewable energy credits as an example. That's a financial contribution. Otherwise, we're thinking the protocol will, whatever they're doing on-chain, will be quantitatively measured, and that will connect to how many refi tokens that they'll earn. Apologies, which slide? Oh, gotcha. So they are abroad right now, and I believe they're on Zoom, but they are the founders of this of ReFi, and they brought us along to work with them.
Awesome. Time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nakul, and I bring to you guys Protein. It's a platform to empower teenagers to build an exceptional future. So visualize LinkedIn meets TikTok. Imagine when you were in high school, you were a teenager, and you were trying to power your way through these questions. What's going to be my career choice? Which college should I apply to? What should I do to even become eligible for my dream college? Now, this is something that most of us struggle through. Some of you might have breezed through it, but personally to me and millions of teenagers out there, this is a problem that still remains, because think about high school now in the current VUCA world. We have hundreds and hundreds or more of career choices, which even adults can't keep up with. So teenagers have to struggle with that. On top of college choice, now they have a thing that they might not even offer colleges. Employers are now straight away hiring based on skills. And then think about the various opportunities which are out there, which are totally fragmented, and they have to actually struggle through all of this. The current solution is currently at a very nascent stage. We have informal advice coming in from parents and peers, which is something that they are not actually trained for. There's an overload of information fragmented all across the internet. So literally students are asking Google, what is the career fit for them? And then we are talking about school counselors who are not just, I'm talking about this country, I'm talking about worldwide, who are overburdened. They are 1:500 ratio is the typical size, counselor to student ratio in a school. And students do not get any personalized attention. And what that means is that either you have the means to hire a private counselor, which costs a lot of money, or you're left to fend for yourself. And hence, you really rely on all the other sources. So what we bring is the first platform, which is going to be a professional social network for students who are in high school, which they use to build their digital profiles and become future ready. Right. So imagine this, that how we are going to work phase-wise is that a student signs up and actually builds a profile of theirs, a digital profile, which will not be like a text-based thing like LinkedIn, but we'll use Reels, something that students, the teenagers of these days, are actually familiar with, and they build this profile of theirs where they mention what they've done in the extracurriculars, co-curriculars, or whatever they are as a personality. Once they are there, we realized during our interviews that the job of a counselor actually is that the students actually realize it too late when they actually start thinking about these problems. So we'll use the network and give tokens, use tokenizations to incentivize them to build communities and start talking about these topics. Once they are in that zone, we are going to give them opportunities, internships, career services, things that they actually need to figure out and navigate, not just to survive, but to thrive in this entire phase. And as we have more and more students coming in, our recommender system will get better in matching up their profile gaps with the kind of resources, the kind of opportunities that these students need to build their profile and become future ready. The model, okay, I'm just going to end by saying that there are about 700 million teenagers out there, and we are going to start off with using my previous experience of past 10 years. We are there in North America, Indian subcontinent, and Middle East, and we'll be able to target students over here. And my teammates are a product manager at Instagram, another candidate at Harvard, and our advisor is an authority in the education industry who's written books on solving these problems itself. And I'm ready to take questions.
So I'm an adjunct professor at Stanford, and right across the street is Palo Alto High School, which is a pressure cooker of high pressure for all the students who try to get into Stanford and Harvard and this and that. And it's actually resulted in what I have been led to understand, some of the highest suicide rates in the country as a result of that. So from an impact point of view, how do you combat that sort of pressure cooker, high stress, I need to get the best internship to get into the best colleges sort of mentality, especially in a social network like this?
Right. So the thing is that you're right about the pressure that these students face. And what we also learned is that 67% of them don't want any adults to actually tell them what to do, and they want to learn from their peers. So we're going to rely on the network to help them solve that out. What questions they have, what kind of resources they need, and just to let off that pressure, they will also know that their peers all across the globe, not just in their city or those who are only targeting at Stanford, what are they doing and why are they doing that? And we rely on the network for that. So it's about the peers actually teaching them and not any adult coming in and again putting that pressure on them.
I think we're running short on time, so let's
I'll be more than happy to take up questions
after the session. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for being here. Hi, I'm Emily. This is Becky. And we're building Moxie. It's the first LinkedIn for refugees. So I'll start with a personal story. In 2016, I taught English to a refugee mom named Marzia. In Afghanistan, she was a political science professor and managed a USAID grant. And in the US, she was eligible for hire, but could not find a job. Marzio is out of the workforce, and that's a problem. We know the labor shortage today is projected to increase and hit 85 million unfilled jobs by 2030. There's so much talent that's underutilized and underrepresented in the workforce. Why aren't we bringing them into the current labor shortage? That's why we're creating this opportunity, this program. But just to spotlight here again, the number of displaced people is currently 100 million, which has increased by 54% since 2020. So we need to engage this talent in the workplace. And so this is how we're going to do it. We're creating a test-to-earn platform that uses AI-generated tests to credibly validate candidates' soft and hard skills. Then we will be matching them with employers. The customer in our platform is the employer, who pays us a 20% fee for each match. And we're using borderless payments, so you can get paid from anywhere around the world. Now I'm going to pass it to Becky.
Thank you. So today, $140 billion is spent on talent acquisition, and that is not including a vast majority of refugees. Our vision is to bring 100 million people back into the workplace. And with this vision and a 20% talent acquisition fee, we can add $730 billion to the talent acquisition market, including refugee talent. And here's how we'll do it. We have an energetic team, these smiling faces, background in human-centered design, social impact, Web3, finance, and entrepreneurship. And we believe we can change the way of hiring for everyone by starting with our rockstar pool of refugee candidates, bringing these candidates to employers and showcasing them for their strengths and soft skills, and developing our test and training programs via blockchain incentivized AI-generated test. We can reform the entire labor connection market as we know it today. The time is ripe. So join us on our mission of reintroducing 100 million people into the workforce and changing the way of hiring so we can all be seen for our strengths. Thank you. We're happy to answer any questions.
Presentation skills off the charts, just super energy. And the core business plan just makes total sense. You're saying, okay, LinkedIn with AI verification of your skills for people that are these people currently on LinkedIn? And this is a second network they're joining? And my real question is, LinkedIn is pretty dominant. Why haven't there been other LinkedIns that have emerged in the market? What's the barrier, especially when you're first trying to get your first, say, 1,000, 10,000 users?
Thanks, Dave. So you're right. LinkedIn is dominant, and it's not reaching a lot of these individuals. There's not a specific stat on how many refugees are on LinkedIn, right? Not everyone goes by the refugee status when they introduce themselves in a professional setting. But what we know is that people estimate like 70% of jobs are based on referral. And LinkedIn is a network based on who you know. And if you are entering a new geography or you're pivoting to a new industry, the who you know of before is not going to serve you in that job search. And so that's why we're saying we want to reduce the bias, show the credible skills, and make that direct match to employers. And we're going to be testing for soft and hard skills and help make that connection to, hey, there's actually open jobs in this industry, and your skills are exactly what they're hiring for. So for people who are entering a new market in a new geography, we're going to help them see how their skills translate, which is a big hurdle. Thanks. Sorry.
If I may. Oh, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Rebecca.
Thanks.
Yes. So I know, like, for job case, which is the LinkedIn for blue collar, they raised $100 million to try to better connect. What worked, what didn't work, and learnings from that for your business.
Thanks. So what we're doing first is I just came back from attending the UN Climate Conference at COP27 and got in touch with global researchers on climate-induced mobility. There is no survey of the labor workforce representing displaced people. And so I'm applying to grants now so that we could actually collect that initial data on what their talent background is. And we'll be talking with groups like what you mentioned around the blue collar LinkedIn about how we build and sell this business case of bringing more people into the workforce and connecting them more naturally with employers. But that labor data is the gap that we're first identifying.
Thank you.
And now presenting Socrates.
Hello. Yeah. Hi, we're Team Socrates, and we're building a human-powered AI to turn the world into your focus group. So this was a quote made by Adidas in 2017, 4 years after the Boston Marathon bombing. While the quote had zero malintent, it was derided on social media for being tone-deaf and cost them millions of manpower to put them down, apologize, and it could have been easily prevented. What is the problem here? The problem here is that people cannot access, or it's very hard to access, like wide-scale, reliable reactions to whatever message you're putting out there. It could be a message, it could be a speech, presentation, TED Talk, post, whatever. You can hire focus groups, but focus groups are rarely representative of the millions of users around the world who will see your post or who will use your product. And they're never diverse. So our solution is a continually learning AI that is trained by people's reactions to content. So you have content out there. During the data collection phase, people go up there and give us feedback on how they feel, and we collect a diverse set around millions of users. As a user, you can upload your image, your speech, your video, your whatever it is. You can choose a target demographic and location, and this AI can give you safe, confidential, focused reactions, basically simulations of how diverse users might react to your content. During the data collection phase, our incentive is basically principle of reciprocity. So during the data collection phase, to bolster the data collection, people give feedback on people's contents to receive feedback on their content. So it's like a web interface. You have your, you upload your video or speech. You can choose to get it from a human feedback, and people give feedback on your content. You can also give feedback on other people's content, and this sort of drives it. And at the end, the AI simulates it. What can you do with this sort of a simulation? You can make your speeches, your posts more effective, fine-tuned to the demographic and location based on the societal events. You can avoid inadvertent mistakes like we saw it with Adidas. And you can fail fast and safe in a simulated environment before launching to the real world. So you don't fail in a social media where you have all fire breaks loose, right? We have a great team to do this. I have experience in computer, I'm a PhD student in computer vision and machine learning, and I work on these things. Alejandro here has extensive experience in finance, and Guillermo here has extensive experience in social entrepreneurship. And we are from 3 major universities in the area, Boston University, MIT, and Harvard. And we have amazing advisors as well. So remember the problem I showed you at the beginning? We built a beta model that was trained on 20,000 reactions online. So we collected data for 20,000 reactions to content, and we trained this AI, and we tried to test this example on our AI, see if it catches this error. And of course, it came up with people might be concerned, amongst other reactions, of course, it came up with one of the reactions as concerned about the safety because of a terrorist attack like this that had happened before, etc. And this is enough for a human content creator to see this and catch on this error and instantly fix it. We spoke with some leadership coaches like Alicia Shapira, DARPA, EY, and they are very interested in these sort of this sort of product. And that is Socrates. We are a human-powered AI to turn the world into your focus group. Please come visit our poster back there. We have a live demo where you can type out things, and it shows an AI predicting reactions to your content. Thank you.
Questions?
Great presentation, thank you. I was just curious also for some of the other companies, how do you take the bias out of the data? And who owns the data, and how do you standardize the data?
Great question, yeah. So one thing is, yes, so there's a lot of, there's a line of AI research trained on fixing the bias by sampling training data in a proper way. And the second thing is the bias sort of plays into our favor here. So what's happening here is AI sometimes amplifies biases, and if you are testing your content, those biases are reflecting how an audience would react. And so if it's amplifying certain biases, you would be over careful in your messaging to really make a message that is very, very safe. And so in some cases, the biases might actually play into your favor. And so that is what, even if the AI amplifies it, it's fine a little bit. We have research on fixing that, but it'll actually make the content creator over careful, actually. So it's not too much of an issue, I would say. Yeah.
Next Sunday, 4 billion people will be watching the FIFA World Cup final. And 3 billion of those fans happen to be living in developing economies, where the sports teams have not yet figured out how to serve the needs of those fans and to monetize them. FanCoin is set out to solve that challenge by bringing value for the fans and the teams alike. We envision to be the marketplace with 1 billion fans in those emerging markets. And we believe conservatively by having 1 billion fans, we can create $10 billion worth of value. I believe sports have an extraordinary ability to impact the lives of people and society. And by doing so, we will be making an impact. And of course, we want to take a fraction of that $10 billion for FanCoin, which would make a lot of venture capitalists happy. So when we look at the market across two dimensions, financial and what I call financial is the health of your fan base, we are focused on the bottom right. Case in point, Brazil Football Federation, which is by far the biggest sports brand in the world, makes only $40 million outside of broadcasting rights. And we plan to do this by building a skyscraper of fan benefits, including health and social benefits as well, and delivering that across tiered products, focusing on the $0 token, bringing on as many people as we can by giving them tangible benefits, and eventually leading to equity ownership or fractional ownership in sports properties. We are differentiated across several vectors, but the two that I'm really excited about, one is the engagement token for masses, and the second is the equity token. I believe that the financial, we have an opportunity to create a new financial asset. And this goal is very attainable. Our early conversations are bearing fruit. We have already signed up our first customer, the largest soccer team in Ghana, with 10 million fans, and our current prospect list represents 200 million fans. And we are talking to other teams as well. So let me show you what we are building for our customers. We are building the full stack, but our MVP is focused on the middle of the skyscraper because their CEO believes that's where the value is. And the fans would be able to buy one of the 3 tokens, also engage in the benefits that they get. I was a professional athlete, but everybody on my team is an avid fan. We are tied to this mission. We believe what we can do. But most importantly, we bring decades of experience in technology, business, entrepreneurship, sports, and law. And today, I'm asking for $100,000 to move the ball forward, to get to our next first down. And the goal is to deliver a kick-ass MVP for Asante Kotoko, so we can get to dozens of leagues, hundreds of teams, and billions of fans with that. And look forward to having more conversation. Open for questions. Thank you.
Time.
I know you put a ton of work into this business, and your choice of what to squeeze into a very short format I thought was just brilliant. You had one example in there, I think it was Brazil Football Club. Could I just ask you to repeat that?
So Brazil Football Federation has 200 million people. I think everybody in Brazil follows football, and they have fans outside of Brazil. I'm a big Brazilian fan as well. And their revenue generation is 120 million per year. And out of that, 80 million is broadcasting. So what they're making is $40 million through merchandising, ticket sales, which is tiny for the quality of the team that they are. Patriots have 3 million fans, and they make ton more money than Brazil football. And the other challenge that Brazil has that their fans are diasporas as well, which are distributed. They can't get and monetize that fan base. This is one example. Another one, squash. 20 million fans, bank account, $1 million. Embarrassing. And that's the problem statement that we are trying to solve for.
All right, thank you.
So
That's it. All right. Thank you, all the teams, one more time. Congratulations. And also want to thank all the judges and mentors throughout this discussion today. I'm going to ask a few of you to give summary comments, very high-level comments, just 3 or 4 of you. So, John, you want to start?
Sure, thank you. So first off, just amazing job, excellent work, everybody. I thought the presentations were really well delivered, really well thought out. This is difficult stuff to do right, and you guys did a great job. So first of all, just a round of applause for everybody one more time. So the one thing I would love to see a little bit more of in the presentations is a really strong emphasis on the customers and the customer decision pathway, and especially sort of initial adoption, because that's where a lot of startups are going to fail and fall down. And so in many ways, it's easier to project the long-term vision, assuming all of the other pieces have already fallen into place and are functional. But often you don't get there because you haven't captured the customers up front. So understanding their motivations, their decision timelines, how you're going to access them, who the key people are, stakeholders are to lock in first, and then second, and then third, that sort of pathway would be really great to lay out in more detail. But excellent job, everybody, overall. Very well done. Thank you.
All right. Jamie, Rebecca?
Yeah, I just want to say it's so great to be back at the Media Lab and see those great presentations. I gotta say, compared to Harvard presentations, I think Harvard folks tell a better story, but the MIT teams, they have way better demos and so forth, so it's great to see that. And I love how the teams are working together from both schools, and we want to tap more into that. So yes, great.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. These were tremendous. I mean, I don't know how you have time to do such beautiful slides and practice these presentations. My one piece of feedback is, as a venture capitalist, like 90% of our decision is who are the people and why are they the ones that are going to win? And if you look at the amount of time that was spent on describing yourselves and your background and why you're entitled to have an insight, it was really small. So I would just try to dial that up and maybe even move it to the beginning of the presentations and really set people's interest that way. But great job all around.
John Warner, venture capitalist. I think these are a force function to help you kind of figure out how you're going to use the finite time here. But I also think it's an opportunity to build your network. And some of the greatest things coming out of this is how people bump and connect after this. So be open to that. Don't have blinders on. But thank you.
Thank you. And say something nasty. Oh my goodness, that's a tall bill. But how about I start with something nice first before I say something nasty, if that's all right. So first off, one thing I think universally that impressed me was the identification of problems. The problems that you identified, they're big, they're intractable, and trying to go after them was very impressive about how you were thinking about bringing what you have at your toolkit to start, with a big problem. So that was fantastic. I think maybe one criticism perhaps is that, getting into the technology too quickly also is a drawback, because I had a hard time also connecting to how you're going to roll it out, who's going to adopt it, exactly who the customer was at some point, and sort of had to try to figure a lot of that out for myself. And in some cases, it wasn't still very clear. I don't know if that's nasty enough, but I think that would be my only criticism, is that everyone started with really great ideas. And be careful about rote applications of technologies. We heard the word coin many times, and it's very sexy to talk about Bitcoin, or it's very topical to talk about how blockchain is structured to solve problems. But if it's not the right application, like for instance, if it's not something that needs to have a life of its own, that needs to survive and needs to be traded and sort of checks the boxes of what may, what may benefit the idea of using a blockchain sort of system, then maybe that's not the right idea. And there's some existing things out there that you could launch with much more quickly and get your ideas floated. But really impressed with all the presentations to the presentation, actually. Thank you.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but Ramesh wanted me to comment on East Coast versus West Coast. So in general, the view on the West Coast about the East Coast is that a lot of the business models and a lot of the ideas that come through aren't necessarily as quote-unquote high impact, head in the sky, much more feet on the ground. You can see that in the way the biotech community is much more like asset driven versus crazy platform technology ideas. But I think these presentations are actually making me question that a little bit, to the point of high impact ideas that were like, at least very solid in identifying the pain point and the problem, right? And the one piece of criticism I would provide back is about to echo the customer comment, is that you're all really clearly very smart. You all got into MIT when I didn't, so very smart, I would say. But a lot of very technical teams tend to build products for themselves rather than for the customer they're going after, and that is one of the bigger failure points. So one piece of feedback would be to actually get in front of more people and to try to at least emphasize why this solution isn't just something we created in a vacuum, but it's been tested off of other ideas, and we've been our own worst critic in the ideation process. So.
Anybody else? All right, Dave, go for it.
Keep it short, keep it short. Yeah, my only addition is kind of thinking about how can you look at historical patterns in market timing and catalysts, because a lot of new venture creation success of startup is defined by market opportunity, market timing. So I think one of the previous comments around studying past history, past solutions, and understanding why now is the right time for a shift in why your new solution, your new approach is kind of needed. So sort of a pattern, a study of pattern and a study of history and why now is something that I would love to hear more of. Thank you.
Great presentation, and you guys are very smart and great idea, big idea. But one thing I want to say, when you're going to tackle the problem, you should focus on the problem, not the competitor. So it's not necessary to think about every competitor is your enemy. And probably your business partner, that will be much easier for you to get into the market. Thank you.
Very interesting comment about the competition.
Yeah, and I'd like to say just one thing that echoes what George said. Everything about life getting into MIT or Harvard is competitive, competitive, and competitive. And then getting in this class, which is oversubscribed, is competitive, competitive, competitive. And then you get up here, and my favorite all-time quote from Woody Allen is 90% of success in life is just showing up. And everybody who spoke today showed up. When you get out there in the real world of building your companies, you're going to find that the tailwinds of technology are massive and exponentially growing. And so your opportunity to succeed is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And in this rarefied atmosphere of insanely talented people, almost everybody will succeed wildly just by showing up. So if I wanted to criticize anything, I can't criticize the people who took the mic today. They're like epic and they're heroic. It's the people who didn't even try to take this class or did take this class and didn't take the mic. Those are the ones who need to fix that, because if you try, you will succeed.
Any final thoughts?
I thought everyone was doing really great today. I know how difficult it can be to stand here in front of rooms full of strangers, really putting your heart out there of what's important to you, what you want to build, how much money you really want to raise, and how you're going to make money. So although everything wasn't perfect today, and I think it's one thing I want to highlight, because I've done it myself, it's very tough to have 2-3 minutes to bring it out there. And yes, I want to know more about the people, and yes, I want to know more about the team, and yes, I want to know more about the go-to-market strategy and who your customer is. You'll get there. This is one little data point in your journey of being an entrepreneur. And you're right, you have to show up. I know many people, they're so afraid of failure, they don't even bother to show up. But all of you showed up today. You're putting yourself out there, and that is a win, no matter how you count it. And I'm really proud of all of you.
Fantastic. So we're going to wrap it up. First of all, I want to thank a lot of folks. First of all, the attendees, the speakers, the mentors, the judges, the supporters, everybody at the Media Lab who has been so supportive, just getting this all going. But I want to thank 2 people specifically who have been working behind the scenes, and that's Ashley and Siobhan on our time. So they have been working nonstop to make this happen, so I really want to thank them to do this. Also want to thank my co-instructors, Yost, Shahid, and Vivek. So 2 quick announcements. We'll have the social hour, the poster session, 12 to 1. I calculated that about multiple $billion worth of investment money right here in this room. So tap into that. Maybe try to get your first check, 25K, 50K, 100K while you're still here. Second is, as John and Dave said, the network is very important. So do not hesitate to go and talk to people saying, what are you interested in? Try to recruit team members, try to recruit engineers, try to recruit advisors while they're all here. They're amazing people. I think Patricia's sitting here very quietly in the back. I just saw Nikhil around. Lots of amazing people. Try to recruit them. Christy's here. So some amazing, Rachel is also here. A lot of talented people in this room who can recruit as either advisors or in a meaningful way, in addition to the judges. For the teams, we have T-shirts, so you should pick them up so you can take nice pictures. Make sure you coordinate with Ashley. We have nice T-shirts for the AI and Web3 Venture Studio class. There's food, and I'm going to hand it. I really want to thank again everybody. I'm going to hand it over to Shahid to talk about next semester.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Ramesh. So again, thank you for the judges. This has been amazing. And thank you for the people that were part of our class over the course of the semester. So for next semester, I wanted to just say, again, our focus is going to be planetary scale, gigascale ventures, and we're going to really push the boundaries in terms of, make people a little uncomfortable in terms of scale, impact, and I think there were some really awesome questions around measuring that impact. I think that's going to be another key element that we're going to focus on. And so of the big sustainable sort of planetary scale goals, we're going to primarily focus on climate and health for next semester. So if you have friends who are looking to explore some options in those areas, we look forward to seeing you next semester. And thank you once again. We will have team pictures in a few minutes while we're, and also the judges. So if I can just request the judges to come up while we're tallying up. Yeah. And just one last thing, we've got posters at the back, so please do visit the teams. They look forward to sort of connecting with all the investors and teams. Thank you very much, and I think that's a wrap. We will, Joost, we're going to announce our winners, so top three.
Yeah, we'll get the top teams who will unlock even more cash from our funds in the next few minutes.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Get the judges.